In this screencast, we will discuss Screencast Development. At the end of this screencast, you should be able to divide learning objectives into basic elements conducive to asynchronous delivery, and describe how to record a screencast in PowerPoint to create asynchronous material. Asynchronous learning is most conducive to material that students can learn without the assistance of an instructor. It falls into the lower triangle of the zone of proximal development. In-class time is best focused on the zone of proximal development, where instructor support is more critical. Didactic information often falls into the lower triangle and can be delivered asynchronously, where the student learns independently at their own speed. Problem solving and critical thinking are going to fall into that zone of proximal development, where we will focus our class time. I will go over a sample topic that I created for MD 840. The basic learning objective for the session was listed here: learning how to interpret chest and abdominal radiographs for proper longitude positioning. To develop asynchronous material, I had to break the learning objectives up into more discrete units conducive to asynchronous material delivery. I divided the topic up into 3 discrete elements, each with their own learning objectives that reflect back to the main learning objectives of the session. For this session, I thought about which catheters were most common and how to naturally divide them, and I identified 3 basic catheter types: central venous catheters, endotracheal tubes, and gastrointestinal catheters. I then made a screencast to address each catheter type. Before I delivered the asynchronous material, students were given an online pretest of unknown cases to assess baseline knowledge. The students then watched the screencasts, and we did have an in-class session. In the screencasts and in the pretest, the unknown cases were very straightforward cases with a single catheter. In class, we worked through very difficult or ambiguous cases that had multiple catheters, some of which were hard to see or hard to precisely localize, thereby staying in the zone of proximal development for that in-class session. After watching the screencast and doing the in-class session, the students were assessed with a post-test that was matched to the pre-test so that we could really measure the improvement. Developing a screencast in PowerPoint is relatively easy. Slideshow recording is now built into PowerPoint. In the past, you had to use certain add-ons or other applications to allow you to develop a screencast. To develop a screencast, you'll go to the Slideshow tab, and this is after you've developed your slide deck. You'll want to have all 3 boxes checked, so you want to make sure that it's going to play your narrations, it's going to use your timings, and it's going to show your media controls. Once you have done that, you will click Record Slideshow. And that is going to take you to the recording view. Once you're in recording view, there's some important things to note. 1, each slide has its own audio file. So you don't want to talk over transitions from one slide to the next. Since each slide has its own audio file, you can erase material on an individual slide and re-record each slide individually. That's somewhat unlike Echo 360 or some other programs which are all or nothing. You have to make it through the entire presentation without a mistake, or you have to start from the beginning. Here, if you make a mistake on a single slide, you can actually go to this X here and clear the audio just from that individual slide. The timings and the animations that you've embedded into your slide deck will sync with the audio. So as you talk and animations occur, or you use your pen or laser pointer, those things sync with your recording and will show up in your final presentation. You can also use notes. I will say that the newest version of PowerPoint is somewhat limited in the fact that you have to scroll through your notes if they take up more than 5 lines. Now let's go over some tips for good recording. I think a good microphone makes a big difference, and I'm a big fan of the Blue Yeti line of USB mics. If you don't want to invest in a microphone, which can run somewhere between $50 and $200, the College of Medicine does have a room that you can reserve that has a Blue Yeti Snowball microphone, where you bring your laptop in, plug the microphone in, and have a dedicated space for recording. Once you're in a quiet room and you begin to record, it does help to have a script. If you have a script, you will find that you make less errors and have to do less revisions in your audio narrations. Don't talk over slide changes. Each slide has its own dedicated audio. If you talk over a slide change, there will be a glitch in the audio and some of what you say may be truncated. Please do not read the text on your slide, ever. It causes the learner to disengage, and it is unnecessary. Keep the text on your slide brief, highlighting the key points and phrases, and then expound using your audio. In terms of timing and length of asynchronous material, you want to be as short as possible. Based on analyzing over 100,000 views on my YouTube channel, which contains screencasts as short as 5 minutes or as long as 30 minutes, the average watch time does not change. It is around 5 minutes. Staying within 5 minutes forces you to be simple and straightforward. If you can't stay within 5 minutes, do not go over 15 minutes. You will find that 5-minute videos will get watched more often and more completely than one 25-minute video. If you're doing a flipped classroom session where there's asynchronous material being presented prior to an in-class session, keep that asynchronous material to about 20 to 40 minutes of time. If it's a dedicated session just based on asynchronous material, you can go up to around 60 minutes. After you have recorded your screencast, you can preview the screencast. On this slide, you can either start from the beginning and listen to the audio all the way through, one slide at a time, or you can go back and preview each slide individually. Remember, because the audio is dedicated to each slide, you can erase the audio on a particular slide and re-record it. If you're going to do that, it's best to do that in the same session and work on the entire screencast and complete it in one session. That way you don't have environmental factors such as microphone positioning or changes in background noise that may alter the audio from one slide to the next. Once you are happy with your timings and your narration, your screencast is fully recorded, you can then create a video from that screencast. To do that, you will click on the File tab, and under the File tab, you go to Export. Under Export, you click on Create a Video, and then you have a few different options on how you want that video to be created. You definitely want to make sure that you use the recorded timings and narrations, and you can consider doing full HD recording, but I actually just go with the 720. The 720 tends to be very high resolution, and it dramatically decreases your file size. You'll start having file sizes in the 50 to 100 megabytes instead of the 150 to 500 megabyte range. And those large files can be difficult to upload, store, record, and some online delivery platforms can have trouble with files as large as the full HD. I like to post-process my videos. I use Adobe Premiere Rush. It's available for free through the UK download website. It is part of the Adobe Creative Cloud, and it is a more simplified version of Adobe Premiere, the main movie editor within the Adobe Creative Cloud. It really is designed for short podcasts, screencasts, and it's really targeted actually at influencers. But because of its nice, simple, streamlined interface, I like it better than Adobe Premiere for this purpose. Post-processing is an unnecessary step, but it can make a better finished product. If you use Mac, there is dedicated software similar to Adobe Premiere Rush that you can do some of the same post-processing changes. In Adobe Premiere Rush, the first thing that I will often do is change the speed of my screencast. When I'm recording the screencast, I tend to talk very slowly and enunciate very clearly. But this does make for a longer screencast, and some of the students find it to be too slow. With Adobe Premiere Rush, you can increase the speed of the screencast without changing your audio pitch. I tend to increase my screencast speed at least 125%. And students will sometimes do this on their own in YouTube. I find that if I speak slowly and clearly and then speed up the video, it is easier to understand what I'm saying than if I try to speak very quickly when recording. The other thing I use Premiere Rush for is improving audio quality. Even though I do have a good microphone, there can sometimes be background noise or static or small glitches. And Adobe Premiere Rush has a lot of baked in processes that can improve and enhance the quality of your audio. In summary, break down those learning objectives so that they're bite-sized and you can deliver them in short 5-minute to 15-minute increments. PowerPoint has made it very simple to narrate over top of PowerPoint slides. And you can produce a high quality screencast in PowerPoint without any additional software. Post-processing can improve the quality of your audio and can also allow you to edit, make timings, add titles. There's a lot of different things you can do in post-processing, but it is unnecessary, and PowerPoint's all you really need. When designing asynchronous material, I would really encourage you to think about doing a pre-test to assess for baseline knowledge and a post-test to assess for improvement after the asynchronous material delivery. And importantly, always get feedback from the students. This should be an iterative process. And every time you deliver a lecture, you want to get as good a feedback as you can and go back and clarify things that were a little hazy, take things out that seemed extraneous, or add something in that you felt might have been missing from your screencast. Thank you for your time. And I hope after this session, you feel more comfortable making screencasts for asynchronous material delivery.